In today's video, we will be writing equations of a line given 2 points. The first one is we're just going to practice and remember if slope is 5 and y-intercept is 15, can you write the equation? Again, I wrote the formula right here for you. Y equals 5x plus 15. This one would be y equals negative 7x minus 5. This is just a reminder that the two things that you really need to write an equation are your slope and your y-intercept. And if you have those, you're good. This one would be y equals, actually I think I have this. Yep, y equals negative 4x plus 1. Now with this one, we are going to start by finding the slope, and then we'll find the y-intercept. So remember that the slope would be negative 5 minus negative 2, and then negative 5 minus 0. And we would get, remember when you have the two negatives, that becomes plus, so negative 5 plus 2 would be negative 3, and negative 5 minus 0 is just negative 5. So my slope is negative 3 over negative 5. Remember, two negatives would make that positive, so that would just be 3/5. And then I just put that into my formula. So I'm going to erase this over here. So my answer would be y equals 3/5 x. And then remember, my y-intercept for the b is wherever x is 0. So in this one, they pretty much just gave it to us because they're telling us that when x is 0, y is negative 2. So my y-intercept is just minus 2. This one's going to be similar. I just need to find my slope. So negative 4 minus 3 over 1 minus 0, minus 7 over 1, or negative 7. And then again, they gave us that 0.03, which is giving us the y-intercept. So when I go to write the equation, it would just be y equals my slope of negative 7, x plus 3. And I have this one right there. So this one's going to be a little more challenging because they didn't give us the y-intercept. So again, what we need to do is first find the slope. So I would do negative 5 minus negative 1 over negative 5 minus negative 3. And so negative 5, remember that would be plus, so it's like negative 5 plus 1, which is negative 4. And negative 5 plus 3, which is negative 2. And then I would always simplify this as much as you can. The two negatives make positive, and then 4 over 2 is just 2. So we know our slope is 2. Step 2, this is where it gets different. We want to find the y-intercept. So to do that, I'm going to use this formula, and then I'm going to choose one of these 2 points. It does not matter which one. For this purpose, I chose the first one because the numbers were different. You actually may, if you were doing this, want to have chosen that one, because then if you mix up your x and y, then you'd still get it right, but that wouldn't really help me teach it to you, so I chose to use this one. So remember that this is your x in your ordered pair, and the negative 1 was your y. And so you're just going to take those and you're going to put them into this formula. So we're going to write y, except instead of y, we're writing that negative 1. And then here, instead of the m, we're going to write your slope 2 that we got from finding slope. And then instead of your x over here, we're going to get the x from the point. Again, notice the x's I made green, the slope was sort of this yellow color, and then plus b, because our goal is ultimately to find what is b. And so remember, parentheses here mean that I'm going to multiply, so I multiply 2 times -3, which is -6. And then I just rewrite the -1. And then the opposite of -6 is +6. And so I would add 6 to both sides. And -1 plus 6 is 5. So my final step is to put the slope and the y-intercept into the formula. So I look up here and I have y equals, and then m, again, we found slope over here of 2. And then we found, and then we write x plus b, except now we know that b is 5. And that's my final answer. So I'm going to try to give you one to see if you can do it on your own. So again, this one we found the slope, which was 2. We found the y-intercept, and then we put both those pieces into your formula. What I would do right now, if you did not get it right, is pause the video and check all the work and make sure that you completed all of the steps the same way that I did, and then move on. So make sure before you move on that you know what mistake you made. Here's our answer for this one. Again, if you got it wrong, pause it and look through the work. I'm not going to go through each step. The one thing I will point out is sort of your answer set here. So we had a y-intercept of 0, and so you don't really need to write +0. So you can see I did that here. And the same as slope of -1, you don't need to write that 1. So really this answer is y equals -x. Now I'm going to have to do a little writing, so bear with me. The next thing is that sometimes our slope is going to be a fraction. And I know how much you guys love working with fractions. So let's just practice a couple. So if I had 2/3 and I was multiplying it by the whole number 3. Remember that what I can do is I can write 3 over 1. Oh, this should be multiplication, sorry. That is a multiplication dot, it's just a really big dot. And so when I'm multiplying, I can cancel diagonally. And then all I'm left with is, we multiply the 2 times 1 and the 1 times 1, so we're left with just 2 over 1, or 2. So I'm going to erase this, and why don't you try one on your own, just to review. So how about 4 over 5 times 5? Wow, it looks like I wrote or, but it is a multiplication. There we go. Again, we can just write that 5 over 1, cancel, and we're left with 4 over 1, or just 4. And just remembering how to do that should be good enough for the work that you're going to be doing. Try this one. Again, the key thing you'll notice here is that your ultimate slope ended up as a fraction. Oh, and so one of the tips that I'm going to give you if you didn't get this one right is to be careful which point you choose. Because notice I'm going to have to multiply the fraction by my x value. So look at your x's. So we have 2 and -4. Which one would make the fraction cancel out? So I chose to use the point with the 2 because 3/2 times 2 cancels those out. So in this case, that's how I would choose my point. And then we get b equals 1. We put it in at the end. So this one, again, we got -1/5 before, and I chose this point because it had a 5 in the x as the x value. And then my answer was y equals -1/5 x plus 3.